What's up, Yins? Happy Friday. Hunter Hodes here with the Locked On Penguins podcast. The Pittsburgh Penguins have now won 2 games in a row, a 4-2 victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs. A really solid victory, I think, for this hockey team. In today's episode, we're going to go into everything regarding this win. We're also going to preview Saturday night's game against the Montreal Canadiens. I will be in Pittsburgh watching it somewhere. Maybe it'll be at Howl at the Moon downtown or somewhere else. I don't know, but I will be in Pittsburgh watching that game. But yeah, so for today's episode, we're going to fully recap this game, going to getting Malkin's brilliant performance, going to Brian Dumoulin having a really strong game, Brock McGinn playing better, Casey DeSmith, so much more, plus that preview against the Canadiens. That's all coming up right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @LONSTORPenguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. And once again, if I can hide this for the YouTube audience, the Grand Admiral is laying on my bed celebrating the Penguins win tonight. I will put my beautiful graphic back up now for the video audience. But yes, he is very fired up. Just want to say, I know I did say I was supposed to have an episode for you all on Thursday going into a preview for the game against Toronto. I apologize about that. Yesterday was just a really bad mental health day for just a couple of reasons. And, when my anxiety really hits, I cannot focus on anything else. And that's my fault. I live with it every day, but today, obviously, much better that I'm able to come to you after this. Even if they lost this game, I was still going to have an episode. But don't think I was just not going to ever do an episode. That was my plan. It just woke up and had the worst anxiety in the world. But just wanted to clear that up for you all. If you thought there was an episode coming and I didn't deliver, I apologize about that. That's hopefully as I continue to get better with it, I think it's not going to happen as much. Anyways, enough about my wonderful mental health issues. 4-2 win for the Penguins tonight. I thought they came out firing in the first period. Shot total was it was inflated, I guess. If you were watching that game, you knew that the Penguins were outplaying the Leafs, even though they were being outshot. And then the second period comes, tables get, the reverse happens. Toronto brutally outplays them. Third period, Penguins win that. Obviously, the most important period of the game, when the game is really tight, and they absolutely shut things down in that third period. I will say this again. I think this was a great team performance from the Penguins. You could really see that they built off that win on Wednesday against the Washington Capitals, and it showed tonight. You got production from the top 6, you got production from the bottom 6. All the defensemen played well. Casey DeSmith was good. Mike Sullivan made some good lineup decisions, even when POJ was not hurt. I really thought just overall a collective great effort from the Penguins tonight. A little bit boring at times, sure. Did they not look good at times? Yes, but when you're playing a team like Toronto, who is very skilled, you're going to have lulls. You're going to have maybe even a period off, sometimes even more than just a period off. But all that matters in the end is the win. I thought the process for the most part was there. You look at natural stat trick at 585. Toronto had 52% of the shot attempts. They led in scoring chances as well, but high danger was a 50-50 split. Expected goals was 55-45 in favor of Toronto. If you go to all situations, they led in shot attempts. They led in scoring chances. High danger is 50-50. But all situations, the Penguins actually had 61% of the expected goals. So this wasn't just like a weird, drubbing. I don't think, Toronto, they did have their fair share of chances, but when they did, it was Casey DeSmith there who was able to shut the door. And yeah, I'll say this. I was a little surprised that they went back to back for him, but I think Mike Sullivan right now is just saying, hey, I'm not happy with Tristan's performance. He's supposed to be the number one, but he's kind of fallen into a rut. it's kind of open season right now. You want to take the net, go ahead. And I think these last couple of games, DeSmith, 3 goals allowed in those 2 games. He's starting to find his game a little bit again. Yeah, is he out of position at times? Sure. Is he not tracking the puck well at times? Sure. But, when you're only allowing 3 goals in 120 minutes of hockey, you are doing something right. And I thought he made some really nice saves tonight, because if you go to Money Puck and you look at their predict to win meter, which, usually that matches up with the eye test. Toronto wins this game. I think it was like a 60-40 amount of time. And no, it matched up a little bit. I would maybe put it down like, 55-45 or something like that. But, it's nice when you're finally able to get those saves, especially in a tight game. I believe the expected goals against was 2.85 for DeSmith per Money Puck, and he only allowed 2 goals. So, he saved almost a goal above expected tonight. And that's what you want from your 1B goalie, who's, potentially going to be a little bit of a starter going forward. I mean, obviously Tristan's going to get the game in Montreal. I think that'll be his game to maybe redeem himself a little bit. But, I really do think the message that Mike Sullivan is sending right now is, hey, there's maybe not a full-fledged starter in net. I'm going to shake things up. We lost 7 games in a row. You go out there and try to get us some wins. And so far, DeSmith has been able to do that. They've won 2 in a row, and he's looked really solid in those 2 games. Jake Gensel, he gets another goal. He continues to push 450. I'm going to get to the second line in the next segment with Jason Zucker and Evgeny Malkin and how, brilliant they play. But, to end this segment, Brock McGinn, 5 points in his last 5 games, goals in back-to-back games. Sell high, guys. I hate saying that, but, he's only going to be playing like this for a select number of games where, the regression is probably going to come like you saw in the early part of this season, and then the second half of last season where he's just kind of a ghost and he just turns back into a pumpkin again. So obviously I am going to enjoy this from McGinn. I will gladly eat the crow. And honestly, I don't really expect him to get traded. The sell high is just me kind of screwing around a little bit just because he makes almost $3 million. And, at times he just hasn't been that best of a player. But these last few games, I will say he has been playing a lot better. And, I want to see more of that from him going forward. Again, outside of, really Josh Archibald at this point, he's really one of the only bottom 6 players who has scored in the last 9 games. And, he had that really nice shot, the game winner tonight to make it 3-2 Shelgren. Maybe he could have had a save on that, but I also think it was a nice release from McGinn. And he's been playing on the 3rd line. So Sullivan's been giving him ample minutes with Teddy Bluger out. So, again, really liked his performance. I thought he was solid on the PK as well. I think obviously in a perfect world, you would want to have him on your 4th line, but I thought he played pretty well tonight, and hopefully he can continue that moving forward. So good job, good stuff for McGinn. I've said this a lot of times. There's been a lot of passengers on this team for the last 2.5 weeks. These last few games, though, he has definitely not been one of those, to say the least. It is absolutely pouring outside my house right now. That's what happens when Hurricane Nicole comes through. Now, coming up in the second segment, we're going to get into the second line and how great that line was tonight, especially Evgeny Malkin. I think that was his best game of the season. We're also getting to some other players who I also thought played well tonight, namely Brian Dumoulin. But before I get to that, BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. And before I forget, there's your wonderful little promo for those that are watching on YouTube. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can also find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. You can head to the website today or use your phone to learn more. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So let's get into the second line tonight. By far the best line on the ice, in my opinion. I think the Crosby, Gensel, Russ line had some good shifts, but didn't really have a lot of really good scoring chances. I thought they were fine, but fine is it's not good. But the second line was just an absolute menace. And trust me, I am someone who wants Rickard Rakell back up on the top line. I want Brian Rust to go back down. But the way Zucker, Malkin, Rakell played tonight, I think you're going to have a hard time convincing Mike Sullivan to do that anytime soon. They were just hounding the puck all night long. We'll start with Evgeny Malkin here. Just an absolute terror on the ice tonight. I mean, he took those silly penalties. I had the funny tweet where I said he's going to break the he's going to break the franchise all-time record for penalty minutes by the end of this game. And he made the tripping motion on his way to the box. He was not happy about it. And what does he do after? In typical Evgeny Malkin fashion, he comes back, scores a beautiful goal, right? Basically his empty net goal, but still really nice shot to tie the game at 1. And his celly was a thing of beauty. He does the tripping motion, points at the ref. I'm like, dude, I hope you don't get teed up, as they say in basketball, or just sent to the box for unsportsmanlike conduct. But he was definitely still miffed about that call, and he gave it to the ref with that celebration. And that's just Pete Gino. That is who he is at this point. I mean, he's honestly just been that way throughout his career. But he was an absolute menace on the puck. Heck, that assist that he had for the Jason Zucker goal to make it 2-1, just a blind pass to the opposite end of the rink, and then Jason Zucker, opposite end of the ice, and Zucker's able to bury it glove side over Shelgren. The Zucker redemption door continues. Nice celly, and just a beautiful shot as well. They were humming all night long. And then even Rickard Rakell, he said he had a couple of really nice scoring chances. Heck, he also almost set up Gensel, I believe, to make it almost 4-2 later on in the third period. Not Gensel, Zucker, had threaded a beautiful pass right through the crease. Zucker was able to get a little bit on it, just slightly hits the post and goes wide. Obviously, if it's like 2 feet to the left, that goes in. But it looked like it maybe would have been safe because it was going a little slow, but it would have been really close, to say the least. But that line was just unbelievable for the Penguins. And if I can find the shift, no, that's not. Nope, I don't want the shift chart. I want the forward lines, and it's really no surprise. Every Penguins line outside the second line was below 36% in shot attempts. The Malkin line was 8. When they were on the ice, they had 80% of the shot attempts. They had obviously 100% of the goals. They had 78% of the expected goals. They had 78% of the scoring chances, 54% of the scoring chances relative to the situation. Also had 4 high danger chances for, 0 high danger chances against. By far the best line on the ice. It was not close. That line is absolutely cooking right now. It's really a sight to behold. And Malkin, ever since he came back last year, I saw this stat from if I can find that here. Yeah, Ryan Wilson of Hockey Buzz, he even said, he's played in 62 games, including the playoffs, 29 goals, 62 points. Well, you can add the Zucker says, 29 goals, 63 points. That's over an 82 game season. That's a 38 goal, basically 82, 83 game pace. And he's only making $6 million per season. Yet there were some people telling me on the offseason that they should get rid of him and go sign Vincent Trocheck. So, I don't know. I hope those people right now that, watch this team, they probably don't listen to my show. I hope those people are eating some nice crow right now. I think, Evgeny Malkin gets a lot of crap talked on him that's honestly not that justified. Like, obviously he frustrates you with the penalties. Okay, he looks lazy at times, but, look what he does in a game like tonight. I mean, he's owned the Leafs throughout his career, yes, but he was all over the ice, making great decisions with the puck. I really don't care about his occasional turnover or two at times. I thought he was absolutely tremendous tonight for the Penguins. And again, I thought that whole second line was great. Other individual performances who I thought were good. I already mentioned Casey DeSmith. I mentioned Brock McGinn. Brian Dumoulin. That's now 2 straight games that, ever since Mike Sullivan demoted him off the top pairing, he's actually looked competent. He's not really making that many mistakes. Yeah, he was on the ice for the Zach Aston Reese goal. And of course, you all knew Aston Reese was going to score against the Penguins. He had been pretty bad up until this point with the Leafs. But in typical ex-Penguin fashion, he has to score because that is how the laws work when it comes to this hockey team. And yeah, he was on the ice for it. It adds to his ugly total, but I'm not really blaming him for that goal just because it was just a weird bounce to Aston Reese. I think, a little bit of maybe a weak goal in quotation marks, if that, but I'm not really going to blame Dumoulin for that. Outside of that, though, really solid. I thought he was defending hard, making smart choices with puck, really doing a good job going from defense to offense. Heck, even had a couple of decent shots, from the point. You can really tell that this demotion is helping him find his game again. And is he going to be on the top pairing at some point this season? Yeah, maybe. But also, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And yes, he got second pairing minutes with Jeff Petrie tonight because P.O. Joseph was hurt. But, that didn't really seem to matter because the Penguins did a great job bottling up the Leaf stars. John Tavares, he didn't really do much. Austin Matthews didn't really do a lot tonight. Rich Marner, William Nylander had the goal. But, Morgan Riley didn't do much. They did a really nice job locking up those core players because you knew that Dumoulin and Petrie were going to see a good amount of at least that Leaf second line that consists of Nylander and Tavares. And they also did see a little bit of the Matthews-Marner line at the top. And they more than held their own. So I liked how Dumoulin played. I'll even say that for Petrie too. I thought he had another good game. You're starting to see him turn around a little bit as well. Jake Ensel, what more can you say about him? Basically has 8 goals in his last 10 games. He's absolutely ridiculous. The way, how consistent he is, it's nothing short of extraordinary. Those are the main players that I think jumped out at me. Sid, kind of a little bit of an off game for him. I will say Chris Letang is not playing up to par right now. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's an age thing. I don't think he's all of a sudden washed just because after he signed that massive contract. I think he's just in a little bit of a rut, and I think he needs to dig himself out of it. I have no problem, saying when a player, even as good as Chris Letang, is playing bad. And I thought tonight, wasn't bad per se, but, just wasn't noticeable like normal. It's just kind of a meh performance. I will say, though, Marcus Pettersson, he has more than played well enough with Letang. I think that's going to be a pairing that you do see stick for the foreseeable future. Again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I personally think that you will see that pairing for a while. And then, Ruido and Ruda, nice to see Chad Ruido come in off the bench. And I thought, he was as steady as ever. He's not going to really blow you away with a lot of offense or anything, but, he is going to be steady in his back end. And I thought you saw that tonight. Other than that, I don't really have any, other standout performances. Fourth line was fine. Heinen had Heinen had that nice play to McGinn to set up that goal for him. Jeff Carter, fine. Didn't really notice him that much. And, he didn't have a bad game or anything. I just didn't really notice him that much. But again, really good overall performance from the Penguins. They get at least 2 out of 4 points on this road trip, and they'll try to get 4 out of 4 when they head to Montreal to try to get some revenge on the Canadiens on Saturday night. So that wraps up this segment. Coming up in the final segment, we are going to do a full preview of that game against Montreal and, just look at their results lately and why, this is a team, again, I said early on in the season, they are not going to be a pushover this season. So far, they are proving me right. So stick around for that coming up after these messages. All right, I'm back on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @LNRs4Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So the Canadiens, they come into this game. I believe they just making sure I have it here on my notes. Yeah, they crushed the Vancouver Canucks on Wednesday 5-2. Before that, they beat the Detroit Red Wings. This is a Canadiens team. They've won 2 out of their last 4 games. Actually, I should say, yeah, they've been an even 500 team in their last 6. Yeah, they're 3-3 in their last 6 games, but they have won a couple in a row. They beat the Red Wings in a shootout. They crushed the Canucks at home, and the Penguins, they'll be looking to get some revenge here after. Remember, they blew that 2-0 third period lead against them early on in the season. A game that, in my opinion, the Penguins should have won. They should have been able to defend that lead in the final couple minutes. But for this game, at the top line, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Kirby Dach. Caulfield was a menace against him in the first matchup. Grizzletang and Marcus Pettersson, they're going to see a very healthy dose of him. And, he's just, what a talent he is. He'll score well over 20 goals this season. Suzuki, obviously a really good player. Kirby Dach had the overtime winner in the last game. Christian Dvorak, Brendan Gallagher, Mike Hoffman on the second line. Jonathan Drouin, Sean Monahan, Evgeny Dadonov on the third line. And then Yoel Armia, Jake Evans, and Michael Pizzetta on the fourth line. And then this will be a fun matchup. Caden Gooley versus Sidney Crosby Part 2. If you all remember, in that first matchup, Gooley gave Sid nothing. Just defended him beautifully. And forgive me, I had no idea who the kid was. I thought he was just a random make-a-name defenseman. Boy, did I learn quickly who he is, because he looks like he's going to be a star in this league with how he's played this season, especially with how he played against Sidney Crosby in that game. He plays on the top pairing with David Savard. That is going to be a really fun matchup to watch. Joel Edmondson on the second pairing, Jordan Harris on the third pairing, and then in net, you will see Sam Montembeault or Jake Allen. I would assume they'll probably go with Jake Allen, but would not be surprised if they go with Montembeault like they did last time, because I thought he played a really strong game. His thing was, for this game, for the keys, keep your shift short. You're coming in, you're on a back-to-back. The Canadians are a rested team for this one, so they're going to have all the juice. They're playing at the Bell Center. Keep your shift short. Smart plays with the puck. Don't be trying to do too much. Also, don't be trying to overly rely on your goaltender to bail you out. I know it's going to be a different goalie in net for the Penguins. It's 99.999% chance that it will be Tristan Jarry, but you don't want him to just be saving your butts on an every shift basis at this point. So those are my main keys. I would obviously love for the power play to be better. It is such a terrible unit right now. I really don't even know what the heck they practice when it comes to that unit. It is awful to watch. Penalty kill. I think from then to now, it has improved at least a little bit. The Penguins have killed off 19 of their last 21 penalties. It would have been 20 out of 21, but the Nylander scored with 2 seconds left on the man advantage on Friday night. So special teams always critical, but we'll see if the Penguins can get a jump on the Canadians again. They jumped on them in that last matchup. They were up 2-0 going into the third. The Canadians weren't doing much offensively. They were able to get that quick goal, make it 2-1, and then they defended fine, I think, for the rest of that period, but they couldn't defend that lead in the final 2 minutes. But the Penguins, they've made some decent strides, especially in the last couple of games. I think their defending has been great late in games, especially against Toronto. The Leafs looked absolutely gassed in those final 2 minutes. The Penguins were just hounding the puck from them the entire time. They had plenty of empty net opportunities. They were playing aggressive Mike Sullivan hockey. That's what I want to see from this team when they're defending a 6-on-5 lead late in a game. You don't want to see them, defend a lead like they did against Montreal again on Saturday at the Bell Center when, they were just sitting around like ducks in the defensive zone and leaving Cole Caulfield wide open with 2 minutes left to tie the game. And thank you, Thorny, for itching your ear while I'm finishing up this episode. But yeah, again, those are my main keys for this one. Keep your shift short. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to rely on your goaltender that much. See if you can get production from everyone in your lineup. But, and also it's hard enough to win on a back-to-back, especially a road back-to-back. Like, it's good to win the first game, obviously, in it because you're rested, but to win that second game, that gets even tougher. So I do think, just due to that and the travel and just you're playing less than 24 hours later, I do think this is going to be a tough game for the Penguins to win. But that said, they're playing a lot better right now. That's 2 wins in a row, and we'll see if they can make it 3 in a row when they play the Canadians. Always got to look out for their top 6. I think their forward depth overall is also not bad. This team plays really hard. Artur Marty St. Louis, they're 7-6-1 so far. They're staying in the playoff picture, and yeah, it's November 11th when I'm recording this, so it's still early, but they're playing well under him, and this team, they've definitely been fun to watch this year. So that wraps up this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Again, I really appreciate all of you listening to this one, and I really apologize for what happened on Thursday. Just trying to be better with all that, but glad that I got to talk another Penguins win with you guys tonight. So I'll have another episode for you all on Monday. We'll be recapping that game against Montreal, And then we'll be previewing the game on Tuesday against Toronto, the game that my birthday game and the game that I will be at PPG Paints Arena for. If you are going to that game, just let me know. So again, hope you all have a wonderful Friday night. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. And, we'll see what the Penguins can do on Saturday. I'll be watching the game and I'll be live tweeting it with you guys. So again, thank you so much for listening. I'll talk with you all in a few days.